I do this every single time. Forget to remove that overlay. It's a tradition now. I hope everybody enjoys it as much as I do. Welcome, each and every one of you, to the Bourbon Van. Just one Bourbon Van person this evening. It's me. I do have a friend along for the ride, and we'll bring him in just a minute. But first, just wanted to say thanks for joining us and welcome. We have a motley crew already here, so thanks for being here right off the bat. Barter Horde's in the house, Kathy Huey, and Leslie Lockett. Looks like everybody's drinking something good already. Barter bottle killed a terrible Irish and cleansing his palate with some Redbreast 12. Do what you have to do. Nothing wrong with that at all. Also, Eric C., of course, welcome to you. And well, let's just get started. We're drinking American Single Malts and then some tonight. Our friend Chris from Bourbon of the Week is here, and he decided this year was the year that he was going to explore some new flavors. And it sounded just like I did last year around this time when I was making my New Year's resolutions. And I said, I think I can help you out. And so on Tuesday night, I was on his channel, and tonight he's on my channel, and we are going to talk through some of these whiskeys that I think are interesting things that I've discovered over the past year that I think are worth a look for bourbon drinkers, rye drinkers, whiskey drinkers in general. And we're going to go all over the place tonight. So there's going to be a little bit of everything. So if you're holding out going, boy, I really hope they drink just bourbon and rye tonight, I'm sorry. We're doing some other things. So welcome to Jim Lemke. Good to see you. Eric Gunderson in the house. We're all getting Gunderstruck tonight. Russ D is here. Welcome. And let us know what you're drinking tonight. I see some of you already have told us Russ D having some Stranahan's. And yeah, you're nailing the theme. We drank some of that on Tuesday, and it was great. But let me bring them in now. Everybody, welcome to the stream. Chris from Bourbon of the Week.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks. Good to be back. You know, like you said, Tuesday on my channel, Thursday here. This is a nice little, we did this for the hockey, the back-to-back, the home and home. So this is fun.
that home and home series. It's great. And you got your bird gear on. You are ready for this weekend's game. Yes. If you don't know, that's Chris's neck of the woods over there. So he's stoked.
Yes. And can I just say, getting Gunderstruck is absolutely fantastic. I loved everything about that.
Well, I think we should just dive right in. We've got 3 whiskeys to get to tonight, and maybe then some. We'll see where we go with this thing. But Tuesday night, we had 3 American single malts. We had Westland from Seattle. We had Stranahan's from Colorado. And then we had Balcones, 132 proof, absolute beast of a single barrel. We had that from Texas. And so tonight we're swinging back to the West Coast for a couple, and then we're going across eastward to Europe. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. But let's start tonight with a Bull Run product from Portland, Oregon. This is a 7-year-old single malt whiskey with further aging in cognac casks. For 13 months, this is 117.96 proof, hand-selected by our friends at Westmoreland Liquor in Portland, Oregon. If you haven't been to Westmoreland Liquor, they literally have a pyramid of single barrels that are all types of whiskeys and rums and you name it. They pick everything. So this is a nice little Portland connection here. Some Oregon whiskey from a great Oregon liquor store.
Starting us out strong with that 118 proof as well.
Well, if you're going to do a thing, it's worth doing right. Look at this. The Mashing Drums in the house. What's up, Jason? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
The front on this nose right here is already confusing to me. I don't know what exactly that is, but is that the cognac? I don't have a lot of experience with even cognac finished bourbons. I've only had a few.
Yeah, I honestly can't speak that much to cognac. I just picked up an Irish finished cognac single barrel, an Irish whiskey finished in cognac. It's a single barrel from here in Central Oregon, and that I love. This one is the one thing I keep getting from cognac finish is like stroop waffles.
Okay,
that's like honey stroop waffles, and I don't know if that's a cognac thing or if it's just what I've found on the 2 that I've had that are cognac finished. But that's kind of what I get on them.
And for anybody who doesn't know, who wasn't around on Tuesday, this is my first experience with pretty much anything outside of bourbon and or rye. So I've had a few here or there, your typical Jamesons and everything like that, the stuff that you find on the shelf typically. So for Phil to send me this now 6 sample flight, it's been one, amazing to try different things, and two, interesting on my end as far as being new to this whiskey world on this side of things, the difference that you get between things that are so similar, where I feel like you don't get as much of that across the bourbon world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just fun to try new things, I think, and this is definitely going to be a new thing for you. It's unlike anything I've ever had.
I'm now into it, and first of all, cigar, some type of tobacco taste on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
This goes back to, what was the one we had? Was it the balconies that you said you kind of, that lingers, it sits there and it sits there and it sits there?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I would get a similar experience for this one, where you might have to wash this one off the palate before you go to the next.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I hope you have something carbonated to sip in between. It seems to be the only thing that works. It's just oily. This one has become a little bit of a chocolate coffee bomb.
Coffee,
but that
definitely.
tobacco is there, honey. There's just, every time I return to this one, there's something different in it. And I usually drink a beer alongside this one. That's my favorite way to enjoy this, because that malt the flavor is so huge. So a nice dark beer with it, something hoppy or bitter doesn't really work that well, but a nice sweet dark beer.
Right.
It's a nice
Some type
pairing.
of stout or something going with this.
Yeah.
Or even a cigar to pair with this, I feel like would be very good to try.
Yeah, completely. The nose of this has a lot of almost like a powdered vanilla, like a artificial-ish vanilla.
Yeah. Right when you said coffee, that was the coffee and the tobacco and those dark roasty notes come out of this pretty heavily. So very good. I still, the nose is still just throwing me off. I feel like the nose and the palate don't truly match. Not that it's not one is better than the other, but it's what I was getting off the nose, and then I was like, okay, let's try this, and the palate was just a little bit different than I was expecting.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. Let's call out what are people drinking here. Leslie Lockett's got an old-fashioned Woodford Reserve. Dave Vogelzang getting himself a 1792 full proof. That is the way to start. That's even bigger than how we started.
Oh yeah.
Well,
full proof is underrated as well, I think.
Oh yeah, completely. Eric Gunderson having some Westland Cask 901 Mash and Journey pick. I didn't know that they did a Westland Cask pick. That's fantastic. Hey, Katie Two Cats is here drinking Stag, just going to flex on all of us right off the bat.
Even more prominent than the 118 proof there.
Wow, just cold-blooded. Unbelievable. Very nice. Tater Dom's here. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see all. This is, by the way, what we're sipping right now, Bull Run, 7-year-old single malt whiskey aged in cognac casks for 13 months, and it's 117.96 proof. So just under 118 proof, because we didn't want to start off with anything ridiculous tonight.
Right. And I will say, for the 4th time in this lineup now, I don't think it drinks anywhere near its proof. I had a little bit of heat on the front of it, but I think it's, I always think about, if I blinded this, what would I think it would be? And I would put it under 118 proof for sure.
Yeah. And I actually, early on with this bottle, I didn't think that. I thought it drank a little hot, but I actually got to try this before I bought it, and I was very impressed with the way that it drank then. It was just a caramel stroop waffles. For anybody that's a runner out there that's had a honey stinger waffle, that was this in a glass, the caramel ones. But the salted caramel, and now it seems to open up. There's new flavors all the time in it, and I actually wasn't sure that I liked this bottle for a little while, but it's one of those that's so many flavors, and it's just so weird. Every time I come back to it, I enjoy it just as much as I did previously.
Yeah, I could see myself wanting to kind of be in the right mood to drink this, or be in the right environment. I feel like the bourbon fans should know where the best places to drink are, whether you're camping, because everybody had, if you're by a fire, you want, maybe that's that rye time. If it's hot out and you're in a place where, you don't really want something overpowered, you drop down the proof, go with a little more floral, a little bit more fruity notes type of thing. So this one would definitely be that fireplace, sipping a cigar, or sipping on this, smoking a cigar type of thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is a great whiskey for the outdoors.
Now, do you have a go-to outdoor while you're out, like that middle of the wilderness camping whiskey?
OGD bonded usually.
OGD bonded. I kind of figured that.
Well, we did a list back in 2021 of our top 5 campfire bourbons, and we're going to do that again this year. We didn't get to it last year because the drought was so bad that we couldn't have a fire anywhere, so it wasn't even worth it.
Right.
It was too hard to just sit with a whiskey in front of a fire, because you have to do some research if you want to do those things right.
Absolutely.
Jim Lemke with a 13-year Knob Creek store pick. Man, how good are Knob Creek store picks in 13 years? That's crazy.
My brother-in-law just got his hands on the 18. It's the 18, right? Knob Creek 18.
Oh, yeah.
That just got released last year.
You know, we never even got our hands on a 15. I had one
No?
opportunity to buy one, and I passed on it. And I'm kind of kicking myself because I'm betting it was good. I did hear that it was over oaked from some folks, but if that was the case, then the 18 wouldn't have been rated that highly either, would it?
See, so from what I've understood from the reviews I've seen so far, is people are saying the 18 is better than the 15, and so I have the 15. I think it is a little over oaked. So I didn't personally pick up the 18, but it's always nice to know people who are willing to put up 100 and whatever it is, $80 to pick the bottle up. And so my brother-in-law having it, I'll have an opportunity to try it. But from what I'm understanding, it's a little bit less of an oak experience than the 15 was, which is weird to me as well.
Well, it seems like it's worth a visit no matter what. If I see that in a bar or at a store, I think I'm going to pull the trigger on it, as long as it's not exorbitantly priced and as long as Julie's not dragging me away saying we have enough. She doesn't do that.
4 other bottles in the van already.
Right. Yeah. Welcome, Shredward, and Rob Gould is in the house. Good to see you. Dan E. Cheers. Yeah, that Bull Run. I'm seeing it in more and more places too. I don't know exactly where their distribution goes these days, but here in the Pacific Northwest, it's all over the place. And for those of you that are local, if you haven't tried it, you really need to, because even when they were 100% MGP, they were picking some really interesting, fantastic whiskeys. Things like their 13-year bourbon finished in Oregon Pinot casks that was being sold around here for $34.99. A 13-year American whiskey is not a bourbon, but still, for that price, absurd for that age.
Welcome. This is a local place, you said?
What's that?
This is a local place, the Bull Run?
Yeah, it's out of Portland.
Okay, right, yep. Right. You said that. Yep.
Welcome to Drifting Drams. Good to see you guys. OGD bonded is life. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
They're just some bottles that don't really, they stand the test of time. No matter when you reach for it, it's always good.
Yeah, absolutely. Drifting Drams, by the way, sipping a Barrel Vantage. We actually have both picked up that bottle, Chris and I. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm surprised so far because I'm not a barrel fan, and I am kind of loving that bottle.
I will say I'm assuming you'll put out a review yourself as well, so we won't get too much in details on it, but I had different expectations than what I experienced, and they've been good so far. So I'll say that much.
Yeah, I went into it just looking at it like, well, I like oak and I like a lot of it. Let's see how they did. And it seems like they kind of nailed that one.
It's always tough when you're working with 3 different finishes. I wonder how, and if anybody can do it, it's barrel. They're not new to the 3 finish game, but it's always interesting once you start putting different barrels together to see how they mash.
So just catching up here on some of the texts, it looks like everybody kind of feels the same way. That Vantage is a solid pour, and I'm happy to see it, because we have had a couple that we haven't been huge fans of, and there's a couple on the shelf that have really been getting a lot of attention. Nobody was really talking about Vantage, and now it seems like everybody knows about it, but still nobody's really been talking about it. I wonder if that's just because people don't want it to disappear like the Seagrass did for so long, when that became sort of like the darling of whiskey tube. But yeah, the Vantage, a very solid pour. $85. It's a lot to spend on a whiskey, but it is barrel strength and triple finished, and yeah, they put the effort in there, and it's worth a try.
I still wish to this day, the only thing that I don't enjoy is not knowing where they're getting their barrels from. I know they have the strings and they're probably getting good stuff, but it'd be interesting to know what some of these, because it's probably, barrels that we're trying all the time, just not at cask strength, and then obviously not in these finishes. So, is it Heaven Hill stuff in there? Is it, they say Tennessee stuff? Is it Dickel? Is it, just for my personal satisfaction, not for anything else.
I like the clarity of knowing. I would say that there's definitely some barrel stuff that I would swear has Dickel in it. Then there's bottles like the Vantage that I don't think it's in there. I don't get that influence on it. Yeah. So, but I'm wrong a lot of the time, and I'm probably wrong on that. Welcome, EJ. Good to see you. Laurent Barnado, love that name. What about the Barrel Infinite? That's the Infinity blend of theirs. I haven't. I think I got to try that one time, but it wasn't. It didn't really hit my palate. If it's the one that I'm thinking of.
I haven't tried that one either. I've seen a lot of other people posting they've gotten the 3 different samples from Barrel, and I'm interested to hear people's opinions on those. I think it's like a rose, maybe not rose, ruby something finish, and a couple other ones. So they're definitely doing their thing, Barrel. They're putting out a lot of stuff.
Got Keith J. Not a fan of the hat. Keith from MA. You would think that the Northeast, you got to stick together here.
I thought I wasn't gonna wear it at first. I didn't want to cause any controversy, but at the same time, we only have a few days left here.
Right. You know what? You got to celebrate it when you get to that point.
Exactly.
Rebel Lockett in the house. Cheers to you. What do you say? You want to set this one aside and check out something else?
Yeah, so I took the approach from last week. I poured all 2 ounces each time, and now I decided maybe I'll save a little just in case we need to go back through. So I have a little in the glass. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you finish all 2 ounces of that Balcones that night?
I did, unfortunately.
Wow. Yeah, because
Wednesday wasn't great.
I would imagine. I was pouring them sort of small, and then I had another Balcones afterwards, and that was a bad idea. That 132 proof monster is that good whiskey, though. And they still have a ton of it here in town. I can't believe that it's still here.
That was the hardest part, is they was so good, and again, none of them drink at that proof, so it sneaks up on you.
The next thing I think we should drink, because it's a little bit lower proof, because the bottle after this is 113 proof. Might have been a good idea to start with this one, but I thought I wanted to put the peated things together, just because that flavor is just very different. And if we group those 2 things together, we might feel a little better about ourselves. This is Old Pulteney single malt Scotch whiskey. Travelers exclusive. We picked this up at Heathrow Airport, aged 16 years, double matured in American and Spanish oak casks. And they say it's warming and spicy with a hint of sea air. This is the maritime malt product of Scotland. So 16 years aged, and this one 92 proof. Yes. So this is obviously, we went on our Scotland, Ireland trip back in October, and really fell in love with a bunch of stuff. And this is one of those brands that it's not over like smoky or anything like that. There's peat there, but the fact that they're using some American oak, maybe some bourbon barrels, things like that, there's going to be some familiar flavors in here for you. So I think this is a nice introduction to Scotch. Granted, it's a oddball, thing that you buy at the duty free, but still pretty solid.
I will say right off at 92 proof, normally you get a 92 proof and you got to stick your nose all the way in the glass to really pull out any of those true flavors with bourbon, again, other than your typical sweet notes and your vanillas and your caramels. This one, I mean, I can smell this thing from holding it a foot away from my nose. It's potent on the nose. There's
an intensity here. Yeah. I'm going to take another sip of the Kirkland signature sparkling water.
Now, does your Costco out there sell liquor?
No. Okay. We get beer, and they do sell maybe my favorite. I think it is my favorite, Irish cream. It makes me happy at the holidays. It's what I put in my coffee.
Makes me feel better. Neither does ours.
Yeah. And that's the thing. A lot of people give us a lot of grief because they're like, "Oh, what do you mean that's hard to find? That's at every Costco." And I'm like, "Not at every Costco, man.
Not at every Costco." Yeah.
Russ wants to know if we were able to get our hands on the Jack Special Release single malt this year. We did not, but a friend of ours did and gave us a taste of it, and I thought it was delightful. I know that some people thought it was a little bit one note. I didn't feel that way at all, but that's one of those bottles that seems to be a little bit polarizing in the community. Did you get to try that, Chris?
I have not. Nope.
I thought it was pretty solid. It was very chocolatey to me, and not. I would say of the Jack Daniels stuff that I've tried, it might have been the least Jack Daniels-ish. Okay. I could have been fooled into not thinking that was a Jack Daniels product. Although the further I got into the glass, the more it sort of showed up. But at first, I didn't see the Jack Daniels influence much.
Yeah, they have a couple of their bigger releases coming out. The Coy Hill came out, and then they did the small batch version of all of that. And then that one, I think they have one more coming out that they had mentioned, but I forget.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't see a ton of that stuff out here. Matter of fact, the triple mash, I think is the
Yes.
one that I think the Bonded is the one that we haven't even seen here yet in Oregon. So one of those two bottles that came out didn't even get here yet. So still waiting on that. We'll see.
Yeah, I have the triple mash. The bonded I haven't had yet, but it is around. I just haven't gotten around to going to get it.
Yeah, which happens. Melissa's here. Cheers.
It's just every time I don't expect what I'm getting. I don't expect it.
This one
so
is
different.
a surprise. Yeah. What I love about this whiskey is that for 92 proof, the way that it coats, the way that it just sticks to your palate like glue is it's a special, I think, whiskey. And there's a lot of Scotch whiskeys like this that we tried that are sort of low proof that we were really blown away to see just how much flavor and how great of a palate feel, how mouth feel that it had for such a low proof. There was a bunch of these that were fantastic that way.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, there's some people in our chat right now that are Scotch whiskey. Well, I don't know, whatever you want to call
Connoisseurs.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm looking at Barter Hordes and Eric Gunderson here, and several other people that are in this chat. They have sent us a lot of things to try and just pointed us in the right direction. So that when we were in Scotland, we got to try a lot of great things. And so once again, it comes back to the community. We would have been shooting in the dark in Scotland if we didn't have some direction.
Right.
Are you going to come join me tonight, or are you going to just make a racket over there?
That very lonely night might have just ended there. You got
yeah. She's
got a
not.
friend
She's
coming.
just going to tease me. She's going to sit about 7 feet away, just out of reach. Yeah, this is. So, what do you think about this right off the bat? Let me ask you. What's your first impression of this?
I didn't like it as much as the Bull Run at first. I think this is probably the first one where I would say it drinks a little bit hotter than I was expecting the 92 proof to come in at. Not crazy. I don't think I would say it's like crazy over 92 proof, but I would put it at 92, 90 to 95 proof. And compared to everything else so far that drank so much under the proof, I think this sips the closest to its proof. And definitely that peatiness. And I don't know if I'm the biggest peaty fan, but you can pick up a little bit of that in here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that when it's subtle, when things are done subtly, which they do a great job of, it's just like American distillers. There are some that just do that subtlety very, very well. But in Scotland, I mean, some of these brands have been around for generation after generation as well. And they've kind of mastered the art. And this is one of those that they say you can taste the sea, the maritime, whatever. I kind of feel like that's accurate on this one. Like there is almost a saltwater, briny something there. And at first blush as a bourbon drinker, I'm thinking I'm gonna hate that.
Right.
But this one, I just find it so interesting. It just hits my palate that way. And I think that that's one of those flavors that is worth exploring, because the more that you find it, when you start to recognize it and realize why it's there, then it becomes an exciting flavor.
There's nothing off-putting about it. It's a little dry on the tongue as well, which isn't usually my favorite thing. But I definitely agree that there's enough going on that it's interesting. And then as well, I don't find myself like coming back to it and back to it. It's a long last, a long finish on this.
Yeah. And for me, this bottle, it's hard to pick out specific flavors. Warming and spicy with a hint of sea air. I don't know that I would say any flavors beyond that, to be completely honest.
That's what I was going to say. That's exactly what it is right there.
Yeah. They kind of nailed it. And I kind of like that they're not like, oh, you're going to get these fruits, these chocolates, these whatever. They're just saying you're going to experience something. That's fair. And this is
what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. In this situation, I don't mind that. Jason from Ash and Drum talking about that Jack Daniel's American Single Malt, says you have to spend a lot of time with it to unpack the flavors. And I believe it. Chocolate, raspberries, bit of banana, and toast. And I that sounds 100% accurate.
I was going to ask you if you ever found banana in that at all, just because that's usually my biggest indicator for I'm going to go towards Jack Daniel's for the pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Rusty, you did get lucky with that one this year. I'm glad to hear it, man. I think you're going to like that. And it is a nice introduction to American Single Malt, especially if you like the Jack Daniel's profile, which we've already discussed. So it doesn't show up right away, but it does certainly show up at some point.
I'm trying to think of, like, every time I hear the word spicy, especially with a whiskey, I just go back to the rye, and I'm always looking for that rye, that allspice, that type of spice like that. I feel like that's not the type of spice that I'm getting off this, but I just can't put my finger on like what the spice is outside of. I just know rye spice when it comes to whiskey, and that's not what I'm getting.
Yeah, this is more of a almost like a, I want to say nutmeg specifically, but it's like mulled wine spices or something like that.
Yes.
There's definitely a cinnamon presence there, but it's real subtle. Again,
Yeah.
subtlety is sort of the name of the game with this whiskey. Baker Drinks is here. Welcome, Baker Drinks. Love a lower proof whiskey with a great mouthfeel. Need to try more scotch. Certainly, I think that there are some really solid scotches that Scotch whiskeys. I know some people don't like it when you say scotches. There's some of those bottles out there that are certainly nice entry points, and that's a good thing for the chat. What are your entry point Scotch whiskeys for bourbon drinkers? People that have become accustomed to this American, bourbon and rye, the American styles. Would love to hear your recommendations on those.
Definitely would, because as I said before, we're trying to move into a different type of whiskey in this house. So it's always interesting. I don't want to start at the bottom like I did with bourbon. I don't feel like I have to go out and do the, I don't have to work my way up from the Basil Haydens to the 1792s all the way, and then start to appreciate the really higher end stuff with Scotch and single malts and stuff like that. I feel like I've put enough time in with the whiskey world that I can kind of jump the ship to something that's a little bit better and still be able to appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think that's well said. There are some regions that I think are good. One that we mispronounced the entire time we were in Scotland was Campbelltown. We kept calling it Campbellton because we thought there's no way it's as easy as just saying it straightforward as it's spelled. It is. It's
The way it
Campbelltown.
looks, right?
And I see somebody mentioned Glen Scotia, and that's one of those Campbelltown whiskeys that we absolutely loved. Everything that they made we thought was just fantastic. I think we tried 6 or 7 different things from them, and we even brought some home. We bought a 1.5 liter bottle or something like that. It's a gigantic bottle that I didn't realize how big it was until we got it home, and I'm pretty happy about the size of it now.
You'll have that for a long time.
Yeah, maybe. When we watched through all the James Bond movies, and I drank kind of a lot of it.
That's the other thing, is there's so many there, in bourbon and rye world, you see, ryes or bourbons are Kentucky, you want to stick with that Kentucky, that Tennessee, that Indiana area. Now, while there's a lot of other stuff outside of that, it's the region that you're looking for when you're talking
Sure.
bourbons per se, where this one, like you said, you just named 3 places that probably have 3 different types of whiskey there, and everything's going to give you a different experience.
Absolutely. Well, here you go, everybody. The Godfather, as I like to call him on Whiskey Tube here, he's dropping the knowledge of those great beginner bourbon drinker Scotch whiskey bottles to try. And I think I agree with everything here. The Compass Box stuff, there's some of that stuff that's actually almost too sweet that doesn't hit like Scotch for me. But there's some of it that I just go crazy for. There was a bottle, I think it was called Hedonism. That's just a vanilla bomb. It's like drinking vanilla candy. It's crazy. But I'm not going to try and pronounce all of these, but any Belvani is a great place to start. Glen Scotia, I think, completely. Glenfiddich. Did I get it right on the first try? Somebody let me know.
I think it's the first one.
All right, great. And then Bunnahabhain. We actually had some really good Bunnahabhain stuff in Scotland too. I can't complain about any of that stuff. I do think even some of the smokier stuff, some of the stuff that hits a little harder, is interesting too. Like Glenfarclas 105. It doesn't at first blush seem like a good starter Scotch, and maybe it's not. We had tried a few before we got to it, but it really hit my palate as a bourbon first drinker. For some reason, it did it for me. But again, everything's palate preference. But definitely, just try stuff. Go to bottle share, go to your bar, and hang out with your friends who like Scotch.
I think that's definitely the approach that I'll take with Scotch rather than I did with bourbon, where I just bought everything on the shelf and tried to figure it out that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Barter says Glen Scotia and Springbank, and I definitely trust Barter's opinion here. He's one of the experts when it comes to Scotch whiskey, in my opinion. I could be happy drinking just that for years, and yeah, that sounds about right.
What are the so far we've done the Bull Run and the Old Pulteney. What are the prices on these? Price points on these?
Excellent question. Let's dig in. The Bull Run is obviously the 7-year aged American single malt, aged for 13 months, finished 13 months in cognac. That one is, I got to find it on my spreadsheet here.
I love that. Nice spreadsheet already lined up, and
that one is
do
only
that more often.
Oh, yeah, you have to. It's only $53 for that Bull Run. So for 117.96 proof, 7 years aged plus 13 months in cognac casks, $53, and it's a single barrel, so you're getting something unique. I single barrels continue to be the all-time champions on price for me. There's so many affordable ones out there. There's a lot that aren't affordable too, but there's so many good ones. And then the other one is the Old Pulteney here. Let me get to my international section, Chris. You got to get all the way down there.
Let's see. Now you got it all lined up. I'm messing you all up.
No, I'm all good. I got it organized, man.
Like that.
That is the Old Pulteney 16-year-old 92 proof. That was the Heathrow duty-free bottle, and that's $80 for that one. And I honestly, it's such a an elegant, subtle whiskey that I don't feel bad about that price on that bottle.
Okay. Now, do you see a lot of, in the bourbon world, we're seeing picks all the time. There's a lot of picks out there. Every liquor store, every mom and pop shop. Are you finding that across the board with other whiskeys? I haven't done the research nor seen it myself.
I see a lot when I get into cities, and we're on the road a ton. So it's kind of hard for us because a lot of times what we think is readily accessible, it's kind of because we hit cities a lot in our travels. And so it's easy to look at things and go, well, that's everywhere. It's in big markets, a lot of this stuff. So that can be a little tricky, but we are finding more and more stuff. I mean, somebody just picked a tequila here. Somebody picked a rum. There are a ton of good bourbons and ryes in town right now. But every time we go to Portland, we're shocked that there are some wild rums that are on the shelf. There are some unbelievable whiskeys in general. There are things that are finished in other things. We've seen gin lately in Portland. We've seen gin a few times. So yeah, all kinds of single barrels. And I love to see it. It gives, I think it gives these, especially smaller distilleries, an opportunity to show off what they got. And it gives, like you said, the mom and pop shops and the smaller stores an opportunity to compete and show that what they're good at too. A lot of them are really great at picking barrels.
And we mentioned it on Tuesday night that there's a lot of people when you show up to these stores who maybe they know one thing about one specific brand. And if they can work with that brand and really talk with them and, like you said, just show off their product through their picks and everything like that. It's great for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's an interesting one from Eric. Is this accurate, Chris? Does that sound right?
I don't know. I've never seen Eric Hozak. I've never seen that name before in my life. I don't know.
Not familiar with that
what
one?
That's about.
Okay.
I'm not a White Claw guy, but I will have a Truly every once in a while. If that turns anybody off here, I completely understand. You feel free to hit that unsubscribe button, but sometimes you just got to switch it up.
All of that stuff is a little too sweet for me, but somebody did show up here with a Topo Chico this summer. And when you're outside and it's hot and it's, sun's beating down, there's worse things.
Also, not that I'm condoning anybody start drinking at 11 o'clock in the morning, but some days there's times to celebrate a little bit earlier than others. If I'm going to the parade next week after the Eagles win this Super Bowl, I can't tell you I'm waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning and taking a scotch down to the city. So sometimes you got to switch it up a little bit. That's all I'll say.
You'll likely have a flask on you, but you got to start with something.
Right.
Troy and Lisa Toole in the house. Good to see you. Welcome. Phil, is that Bull Run part of my samples? Still have to hit those. I think so, Keith. I sent you actually a lot of the same stuff that we've been drinking this week. I think I'm pretty sure that I sent you also this Bull Run. It's a 9-year-old straight bourbon. It's their high malt whiskey, a high malt bourbon, which has been. I haven't been drinking it much because I've been trying not to, because I really like that whiskey. And it's one of those that if I pour it at 6 o'clock, I might have 3 more of them before 9 o'clock. So I'm taking it easy on that one. It's a really good one.
So I initially said that I liked the Bull Run more, but I just finished. I still have half a sample left just in case, but I did just finish that glass because it kind of was just easy to drink. It was very easy. It was very subtle with everything on it. And I sipping and sipping and sipping, and then it was gone. It's
a thinker. I think I said it earlier, and I really think that it's going to sound crazy. You watching a bourbon channel. It's elegant whiskey. It feels different than most of the stuff that I've sipped, even from other Scotch whiskeys. There's something special. And Old Pulteney, Balvenie, a lot of the brands that people have been talking about out there are great whiskeys, whether you're a novice getting introduced to whiskey or you've been drinking it for a long time. That's, it's the same as the bourbon world. Yeah. Everybody seems to like Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. You don't have to be an expert in bourbon to enjoy that bottle,
Right.
but you don't have to be a novice either. It's great for everybody.
Yep. There's a few bottles out there like that, so it's interesting to find something like this that I can enjoy and kind of work my way through in the Scotch world.
Yeah, absolutely. Carlito Classico, big fan of both of us. How about that, Chris? We'll take that. Cheers.
Absolutely.
Welcome. That's it. Yeah, the Keith J, the bottle says 9-year high malt. Yeah, that's the one that you got. And that one is, I think that's spectacular. I'm loving these high malts. I'm loving any kind of American single malt, high malt bourbon. I like all of it. Jim Lemke says, I heard Chris mention Balcones. Did you do that the other night or doing it tonight? Just wondering if I should put it on deck. Well, we did it on Tuesday night. If Chris hadn't drank it all, I would do it again tonight. It's that good. I love that whiskey.
It was too good, so I had to drink it all. And I was feeling it on Wednesday morning, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Eric he says he wasn't going to drink tonight. Now I guess I'll pour my only Scotch. What is it? We want to know what your Scotch is there.
We do have to know that.
Oh, yeah. Barter already asked him. Longmorn is a great Scotch. Grumpy Old Fart. This is an interesting one here. Longmorn is a great Scotch for wheat bourbon lovers. I never would have made that distinction. But yeah, you're probably right.
I'm curious what the connection would be between the wheat and the whatever. I don't know what Longmorn is, obviously.
Yeah, we tried one Longmorn when we were over there, and we did like it very, very much. On Tuesday, the Balcones that we had was this one right here. It is the Texas Single Malt Whiskey Single Barrel. Their single barrel, or their regular Texas Single Malt, is 107 or 108 proof. Somebody correct me on that. We never did get to it. This one is 132 proof. It's a local single barrel. This one was a face melter, and we really enjoyed the heck out of it.
Which for me was surprising because I had one Balcones experience going into that, and I did not enjoy that particular one. And it just goes to show you that just because you don't like one thing from one company, and I've learned that over the years with bourbon, that just because you don't like this particular release doesn't mean you're not going to like other stuff from them, which makes it even harder because sometimes you just want to write off a distillery and say, all right, I'm done spending my money on that. But you just come to find that you have to keep spending it and trying it.
Yeah, you got to keep trying stuff. Aberlour 12-year is...
that's what Hoser is sipping on.
Hoser, beautiful.
I call him Hoser, yeah.
I love it. I'm a big Strange Brew fan. So for those of you who enjoy the Strange Brew, now you know a little more something about me. Brent Worrell's in the house. Good to see you. Carlito going to crack open the Sagamore Spirit Rye Cask Strength tonight. Fantastic. Do you have the Indiana one or the Indiana with Maryland one? We've had both, and they are definitely different. Keith J. having a $28 bottle of Wheelhorse Bourbon. This is a decent, easy drinker. Actually, I haven't had their bourbon. I've had their rye, which I was convinced was Wild Turkey 101. Or roughly 101. I'm pretty sure that the proof point was
the Wheelhorse.
Yeah, I'd finished that bottle before I got the chance to try them side by side, and I didn't feel like buying another one because I like Wild Turkey 101.
Is it sourced? Is it possibly Wild Turkey 101?
It doesn't say where it comes from other than Kentucky. So okay. when I started drinking it, I was like, ooh, that's real good. And then I had like a Wild Turkey 101 immediately afterwards, and I was like, ooh, that's real good. They could be the same. I didn't try them side by side. I had one after another, and then took the Wheelhorse on a camping trip, and it didn't come back.
And that was the end of that.
Yeah. Tony Rain in the house with a John J. Bowman. Absolutely delicious. Love
big
that.
Fan. Big fan.
Delmar 12-year sherry finished. Yeah, the Delmar's good. I like that. Yeah, the Balcones, Barter says he struggled with it. And I think we all have, because it is, I don't know if distinctive is the right word. Unique is the right word. It's different.
It was
and each one of their whiskeys that I've tried is different from the others. Their single malt seems to be the one that hits my palate the best. But I haven't had them all, so I can't say whether or not I really, really love them.
Yeah. Again, I would probably have not tried another Balcones if it wasn't for trying this one. And now that I've tried this one, I'll definitely go back and try some of their other stuff. So
for sure. Yeah, Carlito. Yeah, it's funky. It makes that heat makes it funky. What do you think? Should we get into this McCarthy's?
I'm ready when you are. 113 proof on this one. So we're back in the middle,
Yes,
which I
indeed.
like.
So this bottle here is another local single barrel here. And let me get up to Clear Creek Distillery. So I'm on my spreadsheet again. You know how I do it.
Way to do it.
Actually, I don't have this under Clear Creek. I've got it under Hood River, who is the parent company of Clear Creek. And I don't have that either. Oh, no, it's under Clear Creek. McCarthy's Single Malt, Single Barrel, Cask Strength, Trailhead, Liquor, Pick. And this one is from Hood River, Oregon. So we're going right back, slingshotting from Scotland back to Oregon here. And 113 proof, 3 years aged is all it is. $71 for this bottle. And this is really the one that opened up my eyes to these huge flavors that are available to us outside of bourbon and rye. This is a super unique whiskey.
And I was just trying to show again. It's hard to ever tell if you can see it on screen or not. But this thing is almost clear. The way the color is different,
Absolutely,
between the other two. So I'm excited to see what this does taste wise.
Yeah, and there's waterfall on the label, as there should be. Anybody know the name of the waterfall on the McCarthy's bottle?
I know you do.
Just throwing it out there. I'm always curious to see what people know.
Have you been to it?
Have I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been to this particular
When I lived
waterfall?
in Portland, everybody that came out, I dragged them over to it because it's pretty impressive.
Gotcha.
Come on. Get out of here.
Trev in the house.
Just comes in.
Throwing everybody nerds.
Wielding it. All right, tell me what you think of this, because we're going from one peated whiskey to another peated whiskey, and this one, of course, American Single Malt. Let me tell you about it first. It's Double Mountain Brewery, which is in Hood River, just down the street from Clear Creek. Ferments imported peat malted Scottish barley, especially for Clear Creek Distillery, right here in Hood River, Oregon. So this is actually imported peat malted Scottish barley.
So now I have to know, just because this is going to help me, am I smelling peat or am I smelling malted barley?
You're smelling
malt.
A gentle smoke, certainly peat. I don't know that the barley presence shows up too much on the nose here. I actually think the barley shows up on the palate.
But this is the peat this is the peatiness. When people say peat, this is what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think probably the one that you had, the Westland, the other day, that didn't have the smoke on it, that really had a peat flavor to it. And I think Old Boltney did too. I think what you're getting with McCarthy's is a little more unique because of that smoky edge.
Okay. It's the most prevalent nose that I've had so far, I feel like. I'm actually the first one. What did we have first one? The Bull Run.
Yeah.
And then even the McCarthy's, I could smell that from like a foot away. So
this
McCarthy's
one, like, you smell an intensity. Yeah. I will say this for McCarthy's. A lot of people aren't sure what to make of it right off the jump, especially their 6-year aged or their standard bottles that are a little lower proof. Like I think they're 90 or 92 proof. And it can take a minute to get familiar with it. This one at 113 proof just kind of jumps out of the glass and it's hard to ignore. I'm actually letting it sit for a second because it does take a minute to open up this one. But there's an intensity on this bottle that's unlike most American single malt whiskeys, I think. Jim Lemke going to save his Balcones to rewatch on Chris's Tuesday night stream. That's a good idea. That his is a Minnesota store pick at 132 proof. Also, it's those that huge proof is really, it's interesting because there's not a lot of like 130, 140 proof whiskeys out there that I find uber satisfying. Some of them are just hot for the sake of being hot, and that Balcones single malt is one that I think it's special that it actually has a ton of flavor for you. A lot of quotes coming through from Strange Brew, and I couldn't be happier to see it.
You mentioned that, and Hoser hasn't stopped talking. Was that what the Hoser was talking about earlier?
Hoser got after it. Tony Rain with a dropping a quote on us. EJ dropping a quote. I love it. I
need you to go a little deep. What is Strange Brew? Is this a brewery? Is this a beer thing? Is this?
No, it's a movie from 1981 or 82, maybe 83. It's Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas from, what was the Canadian version of Saturday Night Live? I don't know. Everybody was on it, like Eugene Levy and all those. Everybody was on that show. But Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. Oh man, I could rewatch that over and over and over. Oh, EJ's got it. Multnomah
SCTV.
Falls. EJ, you better get it. You better get it living in Oregon. Kathy got it. Baker drinks, but I'm local. Yeah. Everybody got it. Yeah, everybody that's local or who has spent time here jumped in that. Well, Multnomah Falls can't miss it.
Oh, okay, the waterfall. Yeah.
Oh, I just took a sip of that. I didn't even ask if you were digging in yet.
I was ready. Ooh. The smokiness definitely comes out on that sip there.
Yeah.
Like an intense smokiness.
The first time I ever tasted this bottle, I was like, what is that, ham?
Okay, yes, I can get that as well.
Yeah, it's almost like a really good quality deli, like back when we lived in Chicago. Like there's that sort of thing hanging around in the air. I haven't had this in a little while, and I can't stop smiling.
You say hanging around in the air, and I almost felt like even breathing out that I was still experiencing the sip of this glass, just breathing after I took the sip, it's a crazy dynamic.
Yeah, you feel a little bit like Rocky beating the.
You know a little bit
freezer.
about Philly, about Rocky.
I know a little bit about Philly, just enough.
That's all you need to know. People are telling me I need to do a live stream running up the stairs.
I'd watch
the game on Sunday, right?
I bet you won't be the only one out there. That seems like it's going to be a destination.
As long as there's no Chiefs fans out there, then that's the curse these days. They say a lot of fans a lot of fans before the game will put their jersey or their shirts on the Rocky statue. And so far, it hasn't done well for the opposing team once they post that on social media and it gets some.
I can't imagine it does well for the people doing it, knowing Philly a little bit like I do.
Not at all. Then there's also rumors that Philly's doing it at this point just to kind of get the players up.
I mean, I've been watching hockey and I've been watching the Flyers long enough to assume that that's probably accurate.
Definitely accurate. Don't watch the Flyers right now, though. We've already talked about that. It's a tough year.
Brent, if you wanted to. Either one of those, when he was talking about the two whiskeys that he's got there, the Ardbeg is probably, from a smoke standpoint, closer to what we're enjoying right now. Danny wants to know, is Single Barrel McCarthy's is it Black Label Oregon or anyone know? It's just their single barrel program, and there's not a ton of them around. We would love to do one with them if we could figure it out. We've been bandying about, talking about that for years. It seems like years. I guess it's only been like 10 months, but we've been talking about it for a long time now.
I'm still trying to. There's one note that it's right there, and I'm gonna figure it out eventually. But something on this is just, and it's a good part of the drink here. A lot of smoke on the front, which is kind of hard to get past for me. But there's something on the back end of this that I really enjoy, and I can't quite figure out what it is. Now
you saved half of this for another time, right? I love that because this is a whiskey that I got to try before I bought it. And I said, oh man, I don't think this is for me. I don't know. And then like a week later, I got to try it again and it blew me away the second time I tried it. I think it's just the shock of something totally new.
It is.
It's almost like drinking Malort. The first time you drink it, what is this? And then the next time you go back to it, you go, I mean, maybe I still don't love it, but it's decent, at least you understand the flavor and I don't know, maybe that's the wrong way to look at things, especially liquor, but I don't know, I like Malort personally. So,
and some things definitely change. It's all what you were eating earlier that night. What did you drink before that? And I think the shock is going from the two that we already had to this, where maybe if I tried this without anything else influencing me, it wouldn't have been as much of a shock. But from what we went to what we went to this is different.
I'm having the best time with this glass. It's one of my favorite whiskeys of all time. I love it so much. And I can't really explain it. Like I love so many, bourbons, ryes, all these other flavors. Something about this just speaks to me. It hits my palate perfectly. And this is really the one that sent me on my flavor journey last year. So I hope you try it again in a couple of days and see if it changes for you, because I'll be curious to know if it does. And if it doesn't, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I won't lie to you. I'll tell you the truth.
Because I'm not even putting like flavor notes out there because I don't know that I can really describe this bottle. I don't think I have the tasting notes for it.
I can't figure it out. Is there a now I know I like to use like the bourbon tasting wheel just to kind of walk myself through things. I don't think I'm the best, I'm not the 2020 whiskey taster of the year, so I can't go through my own type of thing, but I can, as I see things on a sheet or as I hear other people talk about them, I can start to appreciate and find those notes. Is there a scotch? Is there a peated? Is there a single malt tasting wheel out there that anybody knows about?
I mean, I would imagine that there is. I'm pretty sure that the one that everybody uses was actually invented by the dude from Lot 40 in Canada. The gentleman,
Dude.
the good man,
That dude, right?
the expert. I thought that was actually created by a Canadian whiskey distiller. So for all I know, it's the same thing. But I would think so. You always get like what I get with a lot of American single malts, well, with a lot of single malts in general from across the world, is various citrus or tropical fruits like papaya or mango or something like that. But I'm not that well versed in those fruits to know what is what. There is one flavor here that you might be getting that you said you're having a hard time identifying.
I almost don't want you to tell me yet. I'll be honest with you.
I'll hold off if you want.
Give me a couple more minutes, just
okay,
because it's there. I know it's there, and I'm trying so hard to just pick it out, but I just can't get to it.
It was I didn't have this tasting note. I couldn't put my finger on it until Joe O'Sullivan is the head distiller right now at Clear Creek Distillery. He actually said, this is what you're tasting. And
that's when you got it.
Dead right.
See, I love that. Right. I love that. And I'm going to be just as excited when you tell me in 3 to 5 minutes.
I really hope, keep trying. I hope it's the exact same situation.
Yeah.
Brent says he's ashamed to say he has no American malts. Starter American single malts. Good place to start. Anybody pitch in with what you think is a nice transitionary American single malt for bourbon drinkers, because I actually think it's a tricky thing to do. I have one in mind. I want to see if anybody else suggests it.
And definitely don't be ashamed, because again, I'm 157 bottles deep now, and I have currently 3 ounces of non-bourbons and rye. So you can get caught up in this, and the way the whiskey world's going, I kind of see things moving outside of the bourbon world. Not that the bourbon boom is going to stop anytime soon, but at the same time, I kind of think people are starting to realize there's a lot better stuff out there who were so interested during the bourbon boom that are starting to realize, hey, maybe there's some other flavors out there that I really like.
Well, and the funny thing is, there's so many people hunting and chasing, and it's exhausting. Like,
yep.
When we find a lot, what if we get a store haul, what we call a haul, if we're on tour, like when we were in Indiana last year and we picked up like a dozen bottles, we did a video saying like, look at all this great stuff we found in Indiana. But it wasn't like we went hunting and brought back 30 bottles and look at all this stuff we got that you can't get. When we find things, we generally try and say what we got and why. And I feel like maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe we're part of the problem with that culture, but there is definitely like a subculture out there that's just like showing bottles constantly. You never see them open. So yeah, I think realizing that there's a ton of other great bottles out there, especially for if you're intimidated, if you're new to bourbon, you're new to whiskey in general, there are so many great bottles. We talked about Tuesday, craft distilleries, American single malt distilleries, Canadian whiskey. There's flavors from all across the world that are worth trying. So don't get too hung up if you can't get your, whatever it might be. We just read an article a couple days ago that said like the number one whiskey to try this year is Weller 12. And I thought, well, that's not a helpful article for 99% of the people out there that are going to read this thing. SCTV. Thank you, everybody that got that right. Carlito says his Sagamore appears to be the Maryland blend, and yes, that's the one we like. They've started producing their own, and it's very, very good. The Sagamore bottle. Bacon, yes, please. Yeah, Barter, this is a bacon bomb. Yeah, we got to get some of this into your hands. They still have some of this around.
I want to figure out this note so bad. It's so prevalent. It's there. Like it's not hiding from me or anything. I just can't figure out what it is.
Because you would
want to say it in my head. No,
you would never. Well, no, you. The reason that you can't think of it is because you can't you can't imagine that this would be a good flavor in your whiskey.
Okay. See, I feel like it's just like I feel like it's so obvious. Like it's something I eat every day or something that I've obviously enjoyed before. But at the same time, I'm just like, I have no clue what to even, the words to even put together to describe this flavor.
Dan E is on board. Malort-ish, indeed. Chicago represent. Lambden, thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. I got to say, I don't know why we don't do this more often. I love talking to Chris. We talked about this on Tuesday, that this friendship that we've got it dates back to, I'm pretty sure that we both were on Instagram. I don't think either one of us had a YouTube channel when we started communicating and just sharing stuff back and forth on Instagram and chatting once in a while. So yeah, it's great. I would love to do more of this.
And don't let Phil's humbleness shock you here, but he's been a lot of help towards my side of things, as far as outside of the whiskey world even, and then into the YouTube world, and his knowledge and everything that has to go along with both video, audio, and then into whiskey, which is what he's helping me with tonight. So
don't give me any credit for audio.
Maybe not audio.
I've
but
got the
everything
worst
else.
Audio background of anybody on YouTube.
You sound great now, I'll tell you that.
Well, this one microphone, since we started using it for everything, it's changed everything. Grumpy Old Fart says Highland Park's cask strength single malt scotch is a wonderful expression of what Highland Scotch is. That is a very good whiskey. I didn't think that I was going to like it because it did have a peat, did have a smoke to it. But when I tried several different versions of Highland Park, I wasn't sure that I liked it. And then I tried the cask strength at a bar in London, and it just blew me away. And I think it's a lot like this McCarthy's, that sometimes the lower proof version doesn't hit people's palates, but then you step up that proof just a little bit and it makes the flavors a little more accessible, even though there's an intensity that wasn't there on those other ones. It's funny because American single malts and some scotches, lower proof is fine, but some of them, when you ramp it up, you get so much more out of it. And I think just being able to identify flavors makes a more pleasurable experience for the whiskey drinker. And I think that's why some of the bigger proof stuff that we're seeing on the shelves now that we didn't used to see, barrel proof, there wasn't that much barrel proof on the shelf 15 years ago. Not like this. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember it. I really think that big proof doesn't always equate with like, oh, it's fire, it's impossible to drink. Sometimes it makes it easier to spot flavors, and that makes it more fun for people.
And I almost feel like, and I don't know if this was anybody's particular plan or fault or the whiskey world in general, but I kind of feel like, at least from my experiences, it kind of rolled out in the right process of everybody was putting out lowers proof, their standard edition stuff. And then people tried it and they were like, oh, this is pretty good. And then they're like, oh, well, why don't you try this at cask strength? And they were already accustomed to a couple of those flavor profiles at the lower proof, that when they tried it at the higher proof, it balanced itself out where, yeah, I get more ethanol with this, but at the same time, I'm getting the flavor profile along with it that I'm truly enjoying, that it balances out.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it more fun when you can identify things.
Yep.
Carlito Classico, I asked earlier, what is an entry point American single malt whiskey that bourbon drinkers can enjoy? And I was hoping somebody would say it, and he nailed it. It's Stranahan's from Colorado. I just think it's so satisfying. It's so flavorful. And if you can find a cask strength bottle, we keep talking about it. Oh, mama, that's good whiskey. That was your favorite on Tuesday night, actually. That was 111.
That was my favorite. And that's another one. That's, I think so far, and somebody else can correct me if I'm wrong here, from Pennsylvania, I think that's the only one that I've seen on the shelves here in Pennsylvania was the Stranahan's. And I don't think it's a cask strength version, although I haven't truly looked at the bottles. That yellow tall bottle is very recognizable.
Yeah, absolutely. It stands out. Brock Keane is in the house. Welcome. Kathy Huey, thank you for joining. Have a great night. Eric Gunderson says Stranahan's Diamond Peak is good. Is that the port finished? Is that the red wine finish? Or what is that one? I can't recall off the top of my head. That's actually got a blue label on it. Just catching up on the chat here. I've just been talking away. I
know. You get caught up in these flavors.
Yeah, Russ says he's got the same idea I do. The Stranahan's is great, especially if you can find a pick. Standard proof to start. Maybe. I actually think that, and maybe it's because I tried the standard proof long ago, but I actually really enjoyed that cask strength. And again, this is our third bottle of it. But whenever we see one, we just pick it up because we just expect that it's good now.
It's always nice to know that you have that fallback after you do try something where you can just say, "Hey, I know I'm going to enjoy it." Even if it's something different within the lineup, you can Wild Turkey, I can pick up anything from them, just about everything, and know that I'm going to enjoy it, which is takes the stress out of actually spending the money to buy it.
Hmm. Yeah, I suppose it's confession time. There's only
Uh-oh.
one Wild Turkey bottle that I don't have, that I haven't had, that I haven't bought. And it's because of the price. And what you just said made me realize how silly that I've been. The Kentucky Spirit. And I always hear that's the perfect proof point for that whiskey, and it's fantastic. And you have to try it. And I was always like, yeah, but there's single barrels and there's rare breed and there's all this other
It
stuff.
is.
Yeah, it's probably time to put a bottle of that on the shelf.
Yeah, I mean, I have it. I have two of them. I have a fine wine and good spirits pick, and then I have a backup as well. I will say though, you're not totally wrong. Because is it different enough across the board? Maybe not, but at the same time, at the price point, what's the harm going to be to have another great wild turkey? It just when you've had all of it, it's almost like what else can they offer me? But it's another single barrel, so you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Brent just became a member. I tried to click on that and put it up on the screen and it disappeared, but thank you, Brent. Welcome. Barter says, when I went to Chicago in September, I came home with so many bottles. That's easy to do in Chicago. Now I need to visit Oregon. Yeah, what are you waiting for? Come on. It's 54 degrees here today. I had the windows open.
We opened our windows up here as well. Then it started
Yeah.
raining, but that's the way it goes. I'm ready whenever you are to tell me this note that you want.
Are you ready?
So I'm ready.
All right. Well, that's very kind of you, Brent. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Both of us, I'm sure. Okay. So Joe Sullivan, I was drinking this at the distillery, at Clear Creek Distillery, and I said, "What is that? It's citrus, but it's bitter. It doesn't make any sense. What is it? Two flavors? What is it?" And he goes, "No, it's one single flavor you're getting. It's grapefruit pith. It's the inside of your grapefruit rind."
That's exactly what it is. Now, I haven't had grapefruit for a long time. I used to eat we used to, when we were younger, we would eat grapefruit for breakfast. Just spoon it out of, cut the grapefruit in half. My brother got one half. I got the other half. Maybe dabble with a little bit of sugar on top.
Sure.
But that's exactly what it is. I would have never guessed grapefruit.
But that's why when we kept mentioning Malort, there's certainly, absolutely, a tiny bit of Malort on this bottle. And I don't know if maybe it's a nostalgia thing that connects in the back of my brain in some lost synapse. But it's
crazy what flavor and smell will do to the brain connections, you know?
Something
people say
really
it all
works.
the time. People talk all the time about, they won't even say the flavors that they get. They'll just say the experiences that it reminds them of. And this reminds me of that grass cut on a fresh Sunday morning. It's like, I never understood that. And then eventually I got far enough into this where I'm like I played football on this field when I was 12 years old, and there happened to be dew on and it's just like, it kind of brings you back to these moments, and it's just crazy.
Well, yeah, it sounds insane, but there are bottles, and Julia will attest to this, that we'll be drinking something and I'll go, "Do you remember that hike on the north side of Mount Hood on this specific river at this particular campground?" And it had that smell to it. It happens.
And it happens.
I see all the time people online that are like, "Oh, they're people in their tasting notes and it's all pretentious and blah, blah, blah." Yeah, there's probably some people that are pushing the envelope a little too far, but there are times when you're tasting a whiskey and it takes you to a moment in time, a specific place, and that's the best way that you can describe it. It doesn't make you pretentious. It just makes a connection in your brain that you want to share because you're excited about it. That doesn't stick with just whiskey, which I hope everybody understands. That's the smell, and the way the brain works with smell's one of the most memorable things in the brain. So when you have that smell, you could be, the perfume your great grandmother wore when you met her once or twice, whatever it happens to be. But smell is very interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Sky just got on from Hawaii. Sagamore Double Oak in Hawaii. Sounds like paradise right now. Just gonna say, that sounds amazing.
I have to pick up the Double Oak still. I have two Sagamores. I have a Dusty Dan's reviews pick, and then I have the regular Sagamore Rye. And a lot of people are telling me that Double Oak is fantastic.
It is my favorite of the bunch.
Okay,
absolutely, and I like them all. The standard Rye, I think, is really extremely good considering the low proof point on it. The flavor on it is huge, and it's great for cocktails, but it's great and neat too. That's one of those bottles that if I just want to have a little something and I don't want to have anything high proof, almost always winds up in the glass. Matter of fact, I'm out of it now. I think I finished it last week.
Time to pick one up.
Look at this. Everything's spicy in the house. Everything's spicy. You're going to like this. We do an annual, well, we've done one, but it's going to be an annual thing. The Hot Wings Challenge, where we try and guess what the whiskey is that we're drinking while we're eating progressively hotter wings. And I had all the hot sauces I needed, and we were going to record that video, and we ate them all. So we need to get more hot sauce. So
Are you a spicy person? You like the extra spicy?
I mean, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't.
I love spicy as well, but I get ulcers in my mouth after I eat spicy food. It's terrible.
Oh yeah, you got to watch out for that. For that,
tough.
That's brutal.
It's tough.
Ohio has 11 American single malts listed. Let's see what Brent's got going on in Ohio. I'm always curious about this stuff. West Branch, Stranahan's, Town Branch. I didn't know Town Branch had one. West Branch, Ohio made, Westland, and St. George. If I was going to pick two, I would say Stranahan's absolutely. The others I can't speak to. Westland, if you think you'd like to try a little peat, it's pretty gentle, but if nothing else, it would give you a unique experience that you probably haven't had before.
It almost makes me want to look up what we have listed as any of these.
Yeah, dig it up. I'd be curious. Eric is out of here. Take off, Hoser.
Hoser out. There's no good way. See, the Pennsylvania just is terrible at any type of organization when it comes to their website. So I can just search American whiskey, which basically gives you everything under the sun. So I'm not even going to bother looking through all of it. But
Eric says that the Stranahan's Blue Peak. No, I can't remember. Is not finished unless that's changed. Oh, in that case, I'm not sure what that bottle is. Curious. Barter says I need whiskey shelves. Yeah. The
we don't have the same one. Do we have the same ones? I actually might have stolen these from you.
There were a couple of channels that asked me which shelves we had. I thought it was you and Trev, the Bourbon Run.
Yeah, I think I might have stolen from you.
And nothing wrong with that. You got nicer colors than I do.
It's just a remote. They change.
I need to do something about mine. Mine are too bright. So it's so bright behind us in our videos that I can't get the balance quite right. And so we always look washed out.
Yeah, mine just came with a little remote. You can do up and down on the colors. You can change it to like 14 different colors. I usually use white or green, but
it's a riot. Just having the versatility is nice enough. McCarthy's, by the way, Brent Worrells, and for anybody that's wondering what we're drinking right now, it's McCarthy's Oregon Single Malt. This is a single barrel cask strength whiskey aged 3 years at minimum. I actually don't know how long this one was aged for. 113 proof, and just one of my absolute favorite whiskeys of all time. Matter of fact, now that I have revisited it here for the first time in a little while, I'm definitely going to go back and get a backup bottle of this. This is great.
So I'm gonna save the rest of that one just because I know you mentioned it can open up. Try it again when you're not drinking it tonight, just because of that shock. So I'm gonna save that one. I think the Old Pulteney was maybe the most surprising to me. The Bull Run I thought I liked the most, but now I feel like I want to go back to the Old Pulteney just to see what it has again.
Yeah, why not? Carlito says that he doesn't get banana on Jack Daniels or Old Forester stuff. I would say if Jack Daniels, to me, depending on the bottle, is more like a overripe banana, like the type that you would use for banana bread. And the Old Forester one is more like Runts candy flavored, like banana flavored. If you're going to talk about banana on that, I don't get like banana fruit. I get artificial banana on that one.
I personally get, the higher the proof is with Jack Daniels, the less I get the banana flavor. I don't know if that proofs out for me personally, but I get banana very much on their lower proof stuff. And then when I moved to the Coy Hill, I didn't get any banana at all, but I can see how, yeah, it's definitely more of an overripe banana than like a straight up I'm eating banana on a breakfast type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I get more cherry on Old Forester than I do banana personally. It's there, you can find it, but I think cherry sticks out to me more.
I think it's one of those things that as you work through a bottle, things change. Because I'm with you in a lot of ways. I think there's some bottles, depending on where I'm at in it, it's either artificial banana or artificial cherry. Because I don't get a lot of regular, like some bottles you get big time black cherry, like you just ate a Washington cherry. I don't really get a lot of that in Old Forester. But yeah, it's again one of those things when people are giving you like 500 tasting notes and you're like, I don't know, man, do I like it? Do you like it? Like,
You're right.
It
makes it tastes good. It's sweet. There's a little bit of spiciness, and that's that.
It's also really tough too, because every single one of us has a different palate, and it just affects everything. Like there's so many bottles that we'll talk about and we're like, oh, we really, really love this. And there's 100 people for every bottle that we love that really hate those bottles.
Yeah.
And that's one of the tough things to talk about on Whiskey Tube is like, I don't know, man, we're not all going to like the same stuff.
And I think it's important to find, there's a lot of people, and I'm sure you see it just as much as I do, who like to say negative things on reviews as if they're not, reviews, and they're not opinionated reviews at the end of the day. So I think it's very important to just find somebody who you sip along with. One, you enjoy what they're doing and who they are, but two, you kind of follow along with their palate, whether you agree with that or not. If that's what you're watching Whiskey Tube for, rather than the entertainment value, but the actual knowledge and, hey, I agree with this guy's palate, or I agree with Julie's palate, or I agree with Chris's palate, then you can start to figure out, okay, they tried this, they liked this, why don't I try that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and even then, we're not all going to like the same stuff.
Right.
Matter of fact, I had somebody over here last night who sent me that article that I was talking about earlier that said that the best whiskey to try this year, according to expert websites, which was that was the link, and more on that on Monday. And I actually gave him a couple of whiskeys side by side to see which ones would really hit his palate. And it
from said website.
Yeah. Well, there's stuff that I had on the shelf
right.
that I was like, okay, that's not really attainable. Let's, but I happen to have that bottle. I got lucky one time. But I tried it, I sampled him a bunch of different stuff. The 12 was not his favorite of the bunch. That's everybody's palate's different.
Yep.
Tony Rain's out of here. Cheers. Take off, you knob. EJ says, so anyway, how about our lovely ethical OLCC? I knew it was going to come up tonight. The Oregon Liquor Commission got caught with their hands in the cookie jar, taking all of the fancy bottles, the Pappies, the B-Tax, the allocated stuff, and making sure that they got their hands on it and nobody else did. It's the exact same situation, and this always happens. It seems to me it's the same situation as the McDonald's monopoly a few years ago.
Yeah,
where they got all the good rewards and everybody else got the cheeseburgers. It sounds like the same thing. It doesn't surprise me. People in a position of power got an opportunity. They saw it and they took it. And to be completely honest, a bunch of people lost their positions, but I don't think that there's going to be any legal ramifications from it. I don't know that they can do anything about it, but it's a miserable situation for those of us that actually would love to get our hands on that stuff. But it's unfortunately, like you keep talking about, it's the nature of the situation right now, which is why we're lucky that we're in what I keep calling a renaissance of whiskey, say particularly American whiskey. So many great flavors of American single malts, killer rye, unbelievable craft distilleries out there. Canadian whiskey, if you can find some of the cask strength stuff, especially, is surprisingly good. The Irish, the Scotch, there's so much good whiskey out there. This craziness, this everybody going up in arms for the BTEC and the allocated stuff locally. It just makes me crazy.
If anything, I think it's gonna hurt that market more than help it itself, because people are going to start to realize exactly what you said. One, if they're rigging the system from the top down, why am I going to get involved in that? Because the people that are getting screwed over are the people buying it on the secondary. So why would you take the chance? Why would you, now knowing what's going on behind the scenes? And then two, like you said, the craft distilleries are going to start getting a chance. The smaller distilleries are going to start people are going to be opened up to these ideas. And I think that's something that your channel highlights so well, being able to cross the country, where I can highlight everything within a 50-mile radius of Philadelphia. That's awesome. But if it's not sold in Pennsylvania craft wise, I'm not getting my hands on it, where you guys have an opportunity in your position to travel everywhere and highlight some of these smaller distilleries with your following. And I think that's one of the coolest things that your channel has to offer.
Yeah, thank you. It is really the point, is that there's I mean, I'm looking at McCarthy's here. I know they sell some of this stuff online, and I know that some of it is it's. I'm not going to say it's easy to get, especially this bottle, but there are some of their products out there that are more readily available, somewhat available. But they're small distillery compared to, some of the other stuff. Bull Run, smaller distillery that you're not going to find everywhere, but fantastic, great whiskeys, and we can shine a light on them and say, if you can find them, and if you can find this specific one, you're gonna have a great whiskey, at least in our opinion. But that's all we can do is promote them, like Old 55, Starlight. We talked about this Tuesday. Old 55, Starlight, and Spirits of French Lick, just Indiana crushers that people are finding out about. You can't always find them, but now if you see them.
Yep. Old 55 has been. I have a list where some people who I trust and people who I agree with, I'll go on and when I see the reviews on things, and obviously you and Julie have that opinion for me. So when I saw that make your 2022 whiskey of the year, it's on the list. I can't promise you I'm going to find it, but I'm looking for it.
Well, if there's anything we ever recommend that you're interested in, holler at me. Keith Smith, thank you. Solera Finish is the Blue Peak. That's I knew it was something. That Muffin Man, what's up? I want to know. I don't know them. Do we know that Muffin?
That Muffin Man has changed his name on YouTube only because I made him. So that Muffin Man is in my Discord personally. So it's hard. So one of the harder things for me, I have YouTube, I have Discord, I have Instagram, and everybody has a different name on each, right? So they message you on Instagram, or they're talking to you on Instagram, and it's their personal.
I get emails
Instagram.
from people I don't know who they are.
Right. So that Muffin Man was in my Discord, and he came into one of my YouTube lives a long time ago and was like, hey, talking all these things about Discord. And at that point, I only had, 40, 50 people in Discord. So I knew most of the names. And I'm like, how does this guy know everything from, like, he just knows things we've been talking about earlier today in Discord. So he came in and was like, oh, by the way, it's that Muffin Man from Discord. And I was like, you got to change your name. I'm not going to know who you are. So he says right now that I bullied him into changing it. So
Carlito Classico says, when I first got into this, everyone recommended and said Woodford Double Oaked was a perfect entry point. Tried it, thought it tasted like wet cardboard, went back 6 months later, still the same. I have a bit of a problem with Woodford Double Oaked because everybody says it's an entry point whiskey. It's pricey. There's when I got into whiskey, it was $38. I've seen it now $60, $65 in some places. That's a tough buy. That's a tough sell to a new drinker. And to be completely honest, in my opinion, and I know I'm in the minority here, I think that Woodford Double Oak is cloyingly sweet. It very rarely hits my palate. Sometimes it does. Not all the time. If I'm going to drink something in that vein, particularly a Brown-Forman product, I think Old Forester 1910 is a much better entry point, even though the price is about the same or more. I just think that 1910, since it came out, people don't look at it the same way they look at Woodford Double Oaked, and I think that they should. I think it's a fascinating bottle that's not overly sweet, introduces you to great bourbon flavors, and it's oak, vanilla, brown sugar, all the things that we really like about bourbon generally. I don't know. And maybe I'm in the minority again, but that's what I think.
I think I'll agree with you on 2 of your 3 points. Number one, I don't think it's an entry bourbon either. I don't see how first of all, I think it's way too complex. Now, the only thing that I don't agree with you on is I truly love the Double Oak from Woodford. But I do think it's another one of those whiskeys where I'm reaching for that in a certain circumstances. Again, it's an outdoor, it's a chocolatey, it's a after dinner nightcap type of thing.
That's when I drink it.
Right. I'm not sipping that. I'm not sipping that the same way I'm sipping Wild Turkey 101 or Evan Williams Bottled and Bond or Four Roses small batch. But at the same time, and I agree that I think it's a little overpriced for an entry bourbon as well. I forget what your third point was that you were saying. 1910. I'll be 100% honest with you. I didn't know 1910 was double oaked. I still don't understand to this day. I know people say it all the time. It doesn't say it anywhere on the label, does it? Is it just coming from information?
Well, it's because it's based on that history of there was a fire, and so they had to store the barrels. They had stored the whiskey in new barrels that were near incinerated. Right. So it is like I don't know that
Which,
it's
if
proof
you
is-
don't know that story, then you don't know that 1910. It's again, Woodford Double Oak
yeah,
says Woodford Double Oaked, and everything else twice barreled or toasted or something. Where
yeah.
1910, and I know it is now only because where I am now, but I didn't know for the longest time that people put it on like their top 5 double oaked or top 5 toasted or whatever they want to call it, and I'm like, I never knew for the longest time.
Yeah, it isn't super clear, and all those bottles just have a year number on them, and then they have a story. But if you don't take the time to read the story,
Right.
it's not super clear. But no, I will say the Woodford Double Oaked, I treat it the same way that I would treat a port wine. To me, it's a dessert. It's a dessert drink.
Definitely a dessert.
And I like it for that. I do.
Yep.
But it's not often that I'm in that.
And
Excited for that.
I hear that a lot as well, that it's an entry level whiskey, and I just can't see that. One, again, for the price point, and two, for the complexity. I just don't see that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think everybody here, we're talking a little bit about the OLCC scandal, the Justin's House of Bourbon scandal. Justin's House of Bourbon, as I understand it, they were dealing under the table, getting allocated whiskeys and then marking them up dramatically without actually keeping proper records. And I don't know. To me, that maybe that's just an accident on their part too. So I'll withhold judgment until we know exactly what's going on. But yeah, it's tricky out there. I'm kind of glad to see that the feds would step in on stuff like that. But at the same time, with the secondary market being what it is, and you look at, it's basically Ticketmaster for whiskey in some respects. It's brutal out there, which is one more reason that this is an important night. These are important whiskeys. What you're doing right now when you said I want to learn more about different flavors, super important for the average bourbon drinker and for all of us, I think, to recognize there's so much more out there. We gotta, if you recognize it and if you can appreciate it, and you don't have to rush out and find it, you don't have to chase things. There's Scotch whiskeys on the shelf all across America and the world, really, that are dynamite. Canadian whiskeys that are dynamite. There's Brandon Peace just mentioned Alberta Premium Cask is awesome. Cask there, that Alberta Premium is very, very good. Lot 40 Dark Oak I saw in here earlier tonight. There's some unbelievable whiskeys that are made around here that are in North America and elsewhere. Chasing everything when there's so many good. Knob Creek 12 and the single barrels. We've been talking about it all night. There are so many good whiskeys out there. It's fun to get your hands on these allocated bottles. I'll fully admit it. But it's not the type of thing that should discourage you from enjoying your whiskey and finding new flavors.
And I think that's, from what I'm seeing, Pennsylvania was involved in this as well. There was actually a guy in a local Pennsylvania group that seems to have his hand in this as well. And a lot of the stuff that they're talking about is Blanton's, Weller Special Reserve. And it's like, I understand, like, if Pappy's involved, and I'm sure it is in some sense, but Blanton's and Weller Special Reserve is what we're all getting our arms up about. And it's just, there's so much stuff out there, and I understand the name and the hype. And I was one of them. If anybody out there is thinking, oh, Blanton's is what I want, and I want to have my hands on it. My wife bought me my first bottle of Blanton's in Delaware for $100. I would literally be upset if I spent $100 on a bottle of Blanton's today. But that's coming again from a guy who's had it, which I think the whiskey world has a very hard time of accepting that, oh, if I don't think it's worth $100, then you shouldn't spend $100 on it. Now, I'm never going to tell you what to do with your money. I can only tell you what I think it's worth personally. And if you want to go out and spend more than that, it's all what you want to spend and what you want to put your money on. But I will personally say I wouldn't spend $100 on it today. $60, $65 is where it should be on the price point. I think it's a very good bourbon at that, but the hype and everything behind it isn't always there. So like Phil said before, there's a lot of whiskey out there that is sitting on your shelves for a good price that you should go out and try.
It's the idea that you said of what would you pay for something, and what we would pay is not what other people would pay. What you and I would pay for something is going to be different. Matter of fact, that could be a fun video series we could do. Just go to the liquor store and this is what mine is. This is what yours is. What are you going to pay for it? But it's so tricky because people ask us all the time, what's the most that you would pay for X or Y? And Julie and I are double income, no kids. We have a cat and this wall of whiskey. That's pretty much our hobbies. So it's all what it's worth to you. I would say that if if you're in the whiskey world and you're collecting a lot of bottles, you're probably, you want what you want, and I wouldn't fault anybody for that. So I don't know. It's always a funny conversation whenever we talk about what people would pay for things.
And there's also the YouTube.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say from the YouTube side of thing as well, where there's bottles that I probably wouldn't pick up because I know I might not like them, but at the same time, the algorithm or whatever YouTube's doing at that time says, hey, you need to try this bottle and put it out on YouTube. And there's been a few bottles, and I'm trying to get away from that side of things, but there's a few bottles that I've personally picked up where it's been the next release where, hey, I need this bottle because I want to review it and I want to let people know what I think about it, which isn't a bad thing as well, because maybe I say I don't like it and then it saves somebody from buying it. But the YouTube world's, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, the one bottle that was like that for me was last year when Basil Hayden came out with their Toasted. Yep. It was on YouTube, and if you look at what the channels, what all the YouTube channels were getting for reviewing that bottle, the views were enormous. And I thought, man, I know I'm not going to like that bottle, but do I buy it just for the YouTube views? And then I was like, no. And I held off, and I feel like that was a turning point for me for this channel.
That's what we need. We need more people like that, Phil. We need more people like that.
Halden's got a good point here on Woodford Double Oak, the picks. If you see Woodford Double Oak picks, a lot of them have a huge caramel backbone, I've noticed. And it's still sweet, but there's chocolate or caramel, and some of them even have like a banana flavor to them, like a maple syrupy sort of Bananas Foster thing. Those I think are worth seeking out. But again, if you're a collector and you know what you like and you're willing to risk a bottle like that, because again, they're not for everybody. It's if you're the type of person that keeps 1 or 2 bottles of bourbon on your shelf, having a Woodford Double Oaked single barrel doesn't seem like the right idea to me, but maybe it is.
Again, yeah, it's just, again, one of those that I don't find myself reaching for every night. And if you are one of those smaller collectors or somebody who's just trying to drink through a bottle, that's not going to be the one you want.
Yeah. I'm just catching up on messages here because I'm way behind. Brent says Cooper's Craft 100 is an entry-level whiskey that I keep buying. Every time we mention that bottle, there are people that absolutely love it. This is the Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve. And there are people that say it was a drain pour for them, which is surprising to me. I did think that it was pretty spicy the first time that I had it. And I was like, oh, this has kind of got an intensity to it. But then as I kept going to that bottle, I found more and more that I liked in there. And about the halfway point, and now it's what we keep in our decanter all the time. At the halfway point of that bottle, it gets a raspberry note every single time. And the second half of that bottle never lasts as long as the first half.
I've only had it once, and I don't know how it's not on more people's top 5 budget bourbons, even top 5 entry bourbons. And if there's ever another list coming out with that type of title to it, that will be in there because it just recently hit the shelves here in Pennsylvania as a steady bourbon. So Cooper's definitely putting out some good stuff.
And they're just growing now. Everybody's talking about the Buffalo Trace, the major expansion that they're having. And now they've got new distributorship coming on board. And it's going to take a while before we see the fruits of that labor. But I think a lot of people forget that Brown-Forman literally doubled in size just a couple of years ago. And that's going to take some time too. But I do think that Cooper's Craft, being a bottle that was only available in like 6 states when it came out, now you're seeing it in more states. That seems like the progression where that bottle's going to grow. It's going to continue to get more popular.
I agree.
Lambden talking Nevada whiskeys, Frey Ranch, Smoke Wagon. Couldn't agree more. Frey Ranch, the nicest people in the world. Absolutely worth a visit if you get.
I've only had a sample of it.
That their bottled and bond rye is one of my all-time favorite whiskeys, and their cask strength will blow your mind. That talk about huge flavors. That one's crazy.
And that's another thing that we talked about earlier is you try one thing, and I've had the Frey Ranch. I forget which exactly that I had, but it was good. It wasn't nothing wrong with it. But at the same time, it makes me hesitant to buy the next bottle because do I want to spend the next amount of money on it? But you're saying these other bottles are delicious. And I've experienced that across the board now with multiple whiskeys. And it's just still running through my mind of like, do I want to try that next bottle? Do I want to try that next thing? And I just have to do it. Got to bite the bullet.
Yeah. Brandon Peace says I traded a Blanton's for a Wilderness Trail, and I don't regret that decision. And we worked on a video a while back that was Blanton's alternatives. We never released it because 2 channels released the video on the same day. that were the exact same video, and I was like, it's just going to look bad and it's not worth it. So we pulled it, and I also didn't think that it was going to be well received anyways, because there are so many like Blanton's fanatics out there, and I don't blame anybody for liking it. It's satisfying, it's good whiskey. But Wilderness Trail was their rye mash bill bottled and bond 6-year bourbon. That was my number one choice. If you can't find Blanton's, I think that's such a stellar whiskey. I love that one.
I think you should release the video.
It's very old now. I'll have to look at it and see if it's any good. I mistakenly bought Cooper's Craft Lower Proof, says John Dyson. Yeah, we tried it. Somebody's Truth's Proofs Firewater Reviews sent us a sample, and we drank it on the coast, on the Oregon coast, and I liked it. I didn't love it. It's certainly
what is their lower? Is it 86 or something down there?
80 or 86. Yeah, it's
80 or 86.
Yeah,
I've only had the 100 proof.
It's definitely different. It's just slight cherry. I would say the Cooper's Craft, the lower proof one, is probably a nice entry point for people that just want to have a sipper around. Like I would go for that probably before Basil Hayden's.
Yeah, at the price point. What is Cooper's? Even the 100 proof, what does that run? 35?
It's $29.99 here. It's always been $29.99. Okay. Look at this, Keith J. Look at. Do you see? This is
despite the hat.
This is what it's all about right here.
Keith, listen, we got 1 week left. We'll get it done. I won't wear the hat anymore because it'll be a different number here at that point. You know.
Dan E says,
I'm curious. Do people think that the Chiefs are going to win this week? Are people confident in the Chiefs?
Who you got? Let us know who you got, everybody. We're sitting here. It's YouTube content night. The cat literally just fell off the counter. What are you doing?
You know, it's funny. You mentioned your cat earlier, and my cat had just walked away as well. My cat's I call him the Panther. He's 19.6 pounds, all black cat. He's a big boy.
This one was 6.5 pounds just a month ago, and she is no longer 6.5 pounds. She's growing rapidly. Dan E says, still can't get Coopers in Chicago. Have to hop the Indiana border. Might just have to. Highly recommend it. We have a lot of friends in Chicago, of course, because we live there, and they do drive across the border to get it. So it's worth it if you're heading that way. Anyways, maybe you're going to Indiana Beach. Maybe you're going to visit the steel mills or something. I don't know. I'm going to catch up on text here. I'm almost out of whiskey. How are you doing over there?
I'm saving the McCarthy's because you told me to. I poured up this Bull Run again, and I just get a lot of chocolate and a lot of those dark roasted, those cigar chocolate, coffee, all of that on this. I'm not a big. Are you a coffee guy? Do you drink coffee often?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in Oregon. I have to. It's in the.
I do tea. I'm a tea guy.
I like tea.
Green teas, Earl Greys, Liptons, all of it.
I'm a green tea guy. I'm a chai tea guy. She's calling. Would you come up here? Come on, come say hi to the people. Come on, good girl. Come on. She's eating my sandal. She's not the smartest cat. Come on.
That's all right.
Come here. She just grumbles all the time. Can you hear her?
We can hear her. Yeah, we can hear her.
Oh, goodness.
She's trying to take Julie's spot in the cast.
Come on. She's not doing a great job right now. Come on, here she comes. Nope, she's clawing at my leg. She's got a lot of claws. Ooh, that doesn't feel great. EJ says, I enjoy Smoke Wagon's whiskey, but I have had a bad one that was off profile. I actually think that's what happened to us in the Advent tournament. There she is. Come here, May. Come here, baby May.
There she is.
This is Mavis for all you that don't know. Look at her shape.
She's a tiger. She is a tiger. Look at those stripes.
She is very good company, but I have to say, I've been awake since 2:00 this morning, and it's all her fault.
God bless you being on here still.
I can't wait for Julie to come back from Florida, because I just need somebody else to distract this cat.
How many days you got left?
What day is it? Thursday. It feels like a Thursday.
Today's Thursday, yes.
No, I get to pick her up for the right when the Super Bowl is kicking off for everybody. I'll be on the road, so
perfect.
Yeah. Katie Turk is here. Welcome, Katie. Good to see you. When are we getting a Bourbon of the Week collaboration pick? Oh, how fun would that be?
That can happen. We'll make that happen.
If I could ever figure out the logistics of it. We both live in controlled states, and it makes it really, really hard.
It's very tough. We're in the process over here, but it's just that, a process.
Yeah, I think we're both in the same boat that we're working through it. What I did find out is that I think that we can do it on my end, but we can't like do anything with it. We can't put our names on it. We can't make any money on it. We can choose the barrel and the distillery can sell it. And I'm fine with that. I don't even care. All I want to do is like pick something great and share it.
The hardest
and I
thing
have
with
something
me
great
is
that
I
I've
don't
already
think
selected.
I don't think the people I'm working with can ship to Oregon.
Well, that's true too. We can't ship to or from Oregon. So
Right.
we have
So
to sell through distilleries that are already selling online.
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough out there. People were talking about Smoke Wagon earlier. I think the problem with Smoke Wagon that they've come across, that almost everybody is coming across that is sourcing from MGP, is they're running out of older stuff. They're running out.
I have to say, I'm a fan of theirs, and they were very nice to us 2 years ago. They decided to contribute bottles to the winners of our Advent tournament. We didn't, that email they sent us went to our spam folder, and we didn't see it until halfway through the Advent tournament. And then it felt real weird when their bottle won for me. That was a very strange night, but they were very good to us. So they always have a special place in my heart. But even I'll say that bottle in this year's Advent tournament, that was a cask strength bottle that we thought was going to crush. It died right away. It was inexplicable because I've had 4 bottles of Smoke Wagon, and I've never had one that I didn't love that wasn't one of my favorite bottles.
And I think a lot of people have talked about the idea of these smaller distilleries that did start sourcing, whether it be MGP or from somewhere else. And the whole idea is eventually, hopefully, you can get your own product old enough and the quality good enough that you can start putting out your own product. Now, is it ever going to replace MGP? If you're getting 10-year-old MGP and you're putting out 4-year-old whiskey of your own, it's not going to compare. But at the end of the day, you're still moving towards your own product. And I just hope a lot of these distilleries realize that going into the MGP sourcing thing, because that's going to dry up. It's going to eventually dry up from that older standpoint of MGP product.
Yeah, I don't think Aaron minds as long as he can keep driving his Goldwing. I think it's a Goldwing, and that Impala, is it Impala that he's got? That sweet.
He looks good on Instagram doing it.
He looks great on Instagram.
He looks good on Instagram doing it.
He's just flexing constantly. He looks great, and I'm going to pour a little more of this Bull Run too. I really like this whiskey.
The only one I'm saving is the McCarthy's, only because you told me to. And even that, we might, the way the night went the other night. Yeah.
Hey, I got plenty of it. I'll send you more, man.
There you go.
Kenny Mule has Chiefs for the win and Pikesville Rye, and I don't blame him one bit for
There's a lot of Chiefs love in here right now. I don't like it. I don't like what I'm seeing right now.
I like John Dykeson's answer. I don't care as long as it's a good game. My team has the number 1 pick. Yeah. Hey, how about the Bears, right? Come on. They need that number 1 pick. And Lovie Smith apparently still playing for the Bears because he coached the Texans to beat them on the last day of the year of the regular season. Brent wants to know, it's a Bourbon van coming to West Virginia ever? Hey, man. Yes, I wanted to this year. I want an East Coast tour desperately. I've
been begging him for it. He's been begging me for ice cream and bourbon. I've been begging him to come see Philly.
We'll figure it out. Hey, I just realized that my internet is tanking out here and the wind kicked up, and that's how it goes here in the high desert. So we're not going to stick around too much longer. We'll hang in there as long as we can until the internet fails here because it's going to do it. I like Carlito Classico says, Phil and Chris, you need to do this at least once a month. It's a good live stream. I actually would do this
all day.
I don't know if Julie would join me for a bonus live stream. She's a busy lady. She's a lot. I work and then I go to sleep, and she has an actual life. So, well,
crazy what these women have. They got everything going on outside of it. Marissa's doing she's probably upstairs doing yoga right now, and I'm here sipping my 4th glass of whiskey. So,
Julie works really hard too. She's just got a lot of energy that I don't seem to have. Maybe it's the whiskey.
Same way.
No, Brent here says we were talking about MGP. He says MGPs I like. Just hope everyone barreled their own juice to switch over. Yeah, it is one of those things that's supposed to, you get started and then you move on. But I think you look at the success stories in that regard, and the cat is just tearing something to shreds over there. So I'm sorry for the noise. But
nothing important.
Nothing in this house is important except for this wall, really.
The wall of whiskey. Yeah.
Nelson Brothers And they had their Bellmead Reserve, which is still one of my favorite bottles of all time. There's only 2 bottles I think left in Central Oregon, and I might buy them if nobody else does. Get them before I do. And they've gotten to bottle their own whiskey. I don't like it as much, but I don't dislike it. And I think that's good for them for doing that. And I just put on my shopping list, because I have a liquor shopping list, because what else am I supposed to do?
Of course.
The Nelson Brothers, the classic, because I heard when they first came out with those 2 bottles, the Bourbon Junkies said that the classic was actually the one that they preferred. We've never tried it. And then Breaking Bourbon just tried it and actually said it was quite good. And it is $40 here. Part of me says just buy another bottle of Lost Monarch. But at the same time, I want to try something new because I'm a collector.
I think the hard part is we're always comparing old to new, whether it be early times gets bought out and let's try the old top versus the screw top, and Wilderness Trail is, it used to be this and now it's that, and it got bought out, and let's try old versus new. And I don't. So it's Nelson Brothers. It's the Nelson Brothers whiskey versus the Bellmead. And I think comparing the two, you could definitely tell me, I could definitely tell you that the Bellmead is better, but I think the Nelson Brothers is still good on its own right.
Yeah, and that's exactly that's what we discovered. We actually tasted it in the middle of, where the heck were we? Utah? We were just off the highway somewhere, and had a really nice tasting of it, of those 2. And we did pick the Bellmead, but not by a huge amount. Being that Bellmead is still available in Nashville, and that Julie and I are vehicular based most of the time, and everything is moving around because the cat's losing her mind. We still plan to go to Nashville to pick that up when we are in the vicinity, because it's good enough for a side trip. It's worth it. Speaking of side trips in Tennessee, we didn't get any Dickel 17 year out here. And if you know anything about me, you know that I actually like the Dickel profile for higher proof, well-aged stuff. And I need to find a bottle of that. So that's like the bottle if I'm hunting or chasing anything, I'm looking for one of those this year. And I actually don't know how rare they are.
I'm trying to think right now, just in case the internet pulls out for you, which order I would put these in. And I've got to say, I don't want to say this, but I will say this right now. I think the McCarthy's is going to be last for me. For now. You told me to revisit it, so I will do that. I think it's too different. It's too much for me as like a newer drinker to the Scotch / peated / whatever world this is. I think it definitely hits you differently than anything else that I've had so far. The Bull Run, though, and the Old Pulteney are very interesting to me as far as which one I liked better. And I finished them both, and I still can't tell at this point, if I had to pick one, which one it would be. It's very close.
It's like birthday cake and apple pie. They're so different.
They're both good.
Excellent.
Right.
Yeah.
I almost feel like the Bull Run it's just bringing more out for me, more flavors as far as like the experience. I wouldn't say they're better or worse, but the experience drinking it is different, and it's more of that experience, where the Old Pulteney is just more. I wouldn't say it's not a one-trick pony by any means. There's a lot of flavors going on there, but it's just less than what's going on in the Bull Run. And I think I would have to pick, if I had to pick right now, I would say the Bull Run, then the Old Pulteney, then the McCarthy's, if I had to put these in an order.
I'll be honest with what I'm feeling tonight. I would go Bull Run, McCarthy's, Old Pulteney.
The McCarthy's is your go-to, though, you said.
It is. I love it. I absolutely love it. But this Bull Run, like I said before, it goes in waves. Sometimes it's pulling huge flavors. Other times I'm not that crazy about it. But tonight it is hitting the palate so perfectly. It's crusher, and it's closer to bourbon than either one of the other bottles are by a huge margin.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me is I'm that new bourbon drinker coming into this world, where this one kind of sits with me a little bit better than the other two. The other two are kind of throwing me off, and again, nothing wrong, nothing bad, nothing off-putting. I've had bourbons that are off-putting and I just don't like them. There's nothing off-putting about any of these. They're just so different and so unusual. Correct. That's a great word.
Bull Run, by the way, has a 9-year American single malt out there and a new 15-year bourbon. Both of them pretty far over $100, my understanding. So I'm curious about them, but I'm not that curious, not just yet. But we have been in communication with Bull Run to go visit them this summer. So that's one of the that's what I'm looking forward to this spring or summer, getting up to Bull Run where we can actually try those things at the distillery before we decide to buy a bottle of either one. But I haven't had anything bad from them. I don't know why I'm so gun shy, other than I don't buy a lot of $100 plus things.
That's the tough part. Once it hits you hit that price point, and you've truly got to think about it.
I have not tried the Guero 17. I actually don't know anything about it. Afraid to drink more because once it's gone, that's it. Man, that's a lot of the bottles on this shelf.
I'm down to I've got to say, I probably have. So I would say maybe a year ago now, I did a live stream where it was a quote unquote bottle kill night where I just wanted to finish 3 or 4 different bottles that what I thought had a glass left in them. And then you end up pouring them and they're about, half full of a glass. And even people in the live stream,
they're the Julie pour right up to that 5 ounce
Julie
line.
pour, exactly. People in the live stream were like, that's not a bottle. Like, you're finishing a lot of whiskey. And I'm like, nah, it's fine. Again, another morning I didn't wake up feeling great, but
yeah, that's not a bottle. That's a bottle murder.
Exactly. There's like 5 or 6 bottles that I have up here that I just don't want to finish. Russell's Reserve Single Barrel being one of the few that I just can't get rid of it. Something about me tells me in my mind, you're not going to want to miss out on this last couple of sips.
Yeah. And that's understandable. That's the funny thing. Like, there's so many times you look in the background of somebody's video and there's a bunch of unopened bottles. But for you and me, it's like, Julie said this the other day when she left. She's like, when I come back, I want to see those rearranged because most of them are half empty or 3/4 empty, and they look terrible up there. And I'm like, I like them.
It looks good. And once I get past half, I have to finish it because that's when they tell you like the bottle starts to go bad quicker because there's more air in the bottle. Whatever people want to believe on that, but it's tough. It's tough to try to go back to a bottle that you truly love sometimes because you don't want to get rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric Anderson, by the way, going to pour some McCarthy's 6-year. Our friends Eric and Ruby Heart 921 sent us a sample of their McCarthy's that they wanted to do a taste along with. So next week, I think we'll do a Patreon live stream and we'll do a tasting of that. So Eric and Kathy, if you're around, we'd love to have you for that so we can taste together. We love doing that when people send us samples all the time and say like, what do you think of this one? We'll drink along because I'm not sure what I think about it yet. I actually love those conversations because we can open up flavors for one another, which again, power of suggestion, but that's how we discover flavors.
It's the only way I would have figured out that grapefruit tonight. So
yeah. When do you now you're gonna also we're both gonna be on Matt Madness on the ADHD Whiskey channel. When is your night? You already know, right?
I'm the 17th, so I'm a pre-qualifier. I have to earn my way into the actual bracket. So I'm the 17th at 10 p.m. Eastern time, which 10, 9, 8, what's that, 7 o'clock for you guys out there, which shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, 10 p.m. Eastern time on the 17th, which is the second pre-qualifying round next weekend.
So the 17th, something is happening in pop culture on the 17th that's not Matt Madness. And we're releasing a video on that day, and it's probably the dumbest video we've ever done.
Can't wait.
And so I'm cringing, wondering if we're going to gain or lose subscribers on that day. Because
probably both.
Well, your shorts game, your TikTok game, your engagement with the youth of the whiskey community is considerably more in tune and intense than the bourbon vans. And so I'm wondering how this is going to go over with our community.
Are you joining TikTok? Is that what you're trying to tell us here live on stream tonight?
No, content-wise, it's just a really stupid idea that I had a while back.
Okay.
That we're actually acting on, and it is. I don't know. I hope it's fun. We'll see.
You've heard it here first, folks. I cannot wait to see what's about to happen. Just from that introduction here.
I think you're really going to like it, and I think that you're going to be in the minority, but we're going to find out because it's just silly and fun, and I hope people take it that way.
I think
there's a lot of people that take things really seriously in this community.
Almost too seriously, which kind of upsets me. But at the end of the day, I think it's fun. Again, the TikTok thing was I downloaded it in 2020 when everybody was sitting at home doing nothing because everything was closed, and then I started to realize what things were going on there, and I was like, I can make this funny for whiskey. And
And they are.
it was the same thing. When I came onto YouTube, I knew about channels. I knew there were other whiskey channels out there, but I didn't really follow them at the time. And same thing on TikTok. There were obviously people on there doing this before I was, but then I started to do my own thing, and I just have fun on TikTok, and these shorts are complete humor, complete 100% just fun for me. They're not serious. I don't do reviews on any of that. There's enough
They're
people
great.
doing that. So
I think they're fantastic. I only see the ones that make their way to Instagram or YouTube Shorts.
yeah.
But I love them. I think they're a riot. So if you're not following Chris on Instagram or on YouTube, then you got to fix that. Yeah, EJ wants to know, is it Phil in concert? It is not. But for you Patreons, I am going to be doing more of those videos that you saw last week where I was harmonizing with myself from 20 years ago for the Long Lost album. I just talked to our producer. I'm going to actually do a couple of more that need some more cleaning up. So
You
there'll
sing?
be more of that. Yeah, well, I was in a band 20 years ago, and releasing little by little, our old producer sent me the old ADAT tapes. And he said, I think this is the album you guys never finished when you broke up.
And you sing in this. This is you singing?
Well, yeah, some of it, yeah. Yeah, we had 2 lead singers, and I was a bass player. And so I found a person that was putting together an ADAT machine in this great studio, and we've had a great time putting it all together and finishing it. And it's in the mastering process. And I was listening to it today, and I said, it's been 20 years. If I'm going to finish these things, I'm going to finish it. Let's do it right. So it's going to be just a little bit longer, but it's been a fun process. It's fun to be a part of it again.
I think you need to put more of that information out into the world. I think a lot more people will be interested in seeing that.
It has been fun. I think that I hope that my Patreon folks have been enjoying it. I know I've had a lot of fun with it. It's just one of those things that, like, how much of the people in this community would actually care about it.
Who cares? I'd care about it. I didn't know about it until right now. This is we've known each other for how long? I didn't know. It has been really fun. So
the
Bourbon Band rocks out. I like this.
That's the community, man. Everybody's really, really supportive, though, which is great. That's what we keep finding.
Yes,
we can complain all we like about people that take things too seriously, or hunt and overpay for bottles and ruin it for the rest of us, or whatever it might be. But ultimately, none of that matters. What we are all doing is just having a good time, supporting one another, and almost everybody in this community is on that wavelength, and that makes it special.
Almost.
Wild Turkey 12, no, never tried it.
I have a lot of people that I know have it, but I personally don't have it or have tried it yet either.
No, never seen it. The on Monday we did the Wild Turkey Masters Keep 5-bottle blind that our friend Brent Pounds sent to us, and it was a delicious flight. But
was that 5 different Master Keeps?
Yeah.
Was Unforgotten in there?
No, because we saw Brent. We picked it up from him last June, I think.
Okay.
This flight before the latest stuff came out. But it was the 5 before that, including one that came from us. It was an Australia exclusive. But there was one, the 17-year bottled in bond, that when I tasted it, I said, this tastes like Russell's 13, but not Russell's 13. And so it's sort of like that Wild Turkey well-aged stuff. It really does have a special feel to it. So I'll bet that the 12-year is special. But I've never seen it, and I don't think I will.
Yeah, like I said, I have people that I know that like bought it overseas and somehow got it over here. So.
Oh wow. Rusty says that my sock game was on point. Yeah, man, I wore the tall socks. I'm a man who likes a tall sock.
Patreon song release was great. Sock game on point.
I'll have to send you that video link, Chris, so you can enjoy.
I'll have to watch it.
Ridiculousness of it too. Well, it's been 1 hour and 54 minutes, and I think that we're coming to the end because I'm out of whiskey. I mean, besides,
I only have the McCarthy left, but I'm saving that. I'm saving it.
Yeah, and I want to know. Maybe we'll get together next week. We'll do a quick one.
Yeah,
see if it hits your palate differently.
We'll do it live from the Eagles parade down in Philly there.
Ooh, that would be a fun video. All right, count me in if that happens.
Beautiful.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining. This was super fun. I'm really glad that we did this week. This home and home series, I think we need to do more of these. I think everybody agrees.
Yep.
It was great having you on, and we appreciate your insight and tasting notes and the conversation. This was fantastic. I loved it.
Hopefully next time I can bring you a little bit more information, seeing that everything I've had for the past 2 nights has been completely new to me, which has been awesome because this is, again, what I'm looking forward to going into 2023. So again, we'll definitely do this again. Phil has always been an inspiration for me as far as YouTube goes. So we'll definitely get together again.
Well, fantastic. Well, let's talk offline. We'll figure it out. And yeah, maybe we'll exchange some things and then we can have a lot more of this thing because this was fun and we'll do it again. But thanks again to Chris. Thanks again to all of you for joining. And I have to cheers with something. There's a little splash left in here. I'll do Julie's part 2. From wherever we are to wherever you are. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again.
Cheers.